Justice and Mercy International exists to make justice personal for the poor, the orphan, and the forgotten people of the world. And we primarily work in 2 countries. We work in the Amazon region of Brazil, and we work in Eastern Europe in a small country called Moldova.
Our organization exists here in the Amazon to educate, encourage, equip, and serve the river people along the Amazon River. And we do that mainly through jungle pastors who are ministering all over the jungle in regions that most of us will never get to.
In Moldova, we work with pastors in a pastors' conference setting, but we also work with local churches in the villages where we have child sponsorship and transitional living sponsorship.
In Moldova, we're trying to raise up a group of leaders from inside that can stay in the country and can have jobs and can provide for themselves and their families and really begin to change the culture in Moldova.
The virus was taking over this region, especially in the villages, because you do realize that the concept of viruses, bacteria, like those things, they have no knowledge of it. They have no experience with it. And it's an unfair fight.
We were very concerned about the families and the children we work with, and we couldn't imagine there are so many families, vulnerable children, poor children, who need help, who need food and clothes, shoes, any help.
Jungle pastors were no different. They would call and say, our pantry is completely empty, but I'm not even calling for me. I'm calling because my village doesn't have any food. Can you guys send them food?
One of the things that we found right at the very beginning of COVID was that people were hungry.
And we did not have money in reserve for a feeding program. We had money in reserve for our normal sponsorship program, for our pastors' conferences. But the U.S. staff, as we sat and we prayed and we heard about these needs, we began to immediately say, we know that we need to feed people. God talks a lot in His Word about how He identifies with the poor, that what you do for the least of these, you do for me. So before we had a dime in our hand, before anybody had given anything, we went ahead and gave the go-ahead for Sarah and Alina to begin finding out where we needed to deliver emergency food bags. And as we delivered emergency food bags, the money began to come in. And it was just a reminder to me of God's heart for the least of these. He took care of the poor first.
Once we started delivering food bags, the news spread very quickly. And families just started contacting us on social media. Pastors, mayors, social assistants contacted us and asked for help.
One of the exciting things that's happened as a result of this pandemic, and it reaffirms the fact that God takes something bad and turns it into something good. And that's what He's done in our ministry in the Amazon and in Moldova. We have been able to distribute gospel resources, hundreds and hundreds of gospel resources, Bibles to those in need. We've made greater connections with people on the ground, with families that have never heard about the good news of Jesus.
So during this global pandemic, we were able to really see how we made justice personal. We were able to deliver food when people were hungry. We were able to teach them about the virus and how to protect themselves.
We're told, how will they know that we are Christians? Well, they'll know us, the scriptures tell us, by our love for one another. And that's exactly what we found to be the case in our work in Moldova and the Amazon.